June 21, 1953, December 27, 2007, was a Pakistani politician who served as Prime Minister of Pakistan from 1988 to 1990 and again from 1993 to 1996. She was the first woman to head a democratic government in a Muslim-majority nation. Ideologically a liberal and a secularist, she chaired or co-chaired the Pakistan People's Party, PPP, from the early 1980s until her assassination in 2007. Of mixed Sindhi and Kurdish parentage, Bhutto was born in Karachi to a politically important, wealthy aristocratic family. Her father, the PPP's founder and leader Zulfikar, was elected prime minister on a socialist platform in 1973. Bhutto studied at Harvard University and the University of Oxford, where she was president of the Oxford Union. She returned to Pakistan in 1977, shortly before her father was ousted in a military coup and executed. Bhutto and her mother Nusrat took control of the PPP and led the country's movement for the restoration of democracy. Bhutto was repeatedly imprisoned by Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq's military government and then exiled to Britain in 1984. She returned in 1986 and, influenced by Thatcherite economics, transformed the PPP's platform from a socialist to a liberal one, before leading it to victory in the 1988 election. As Prime Minister, her attempts at reform were stifled by conservative and Islamist forces, including President Ghulam Ishaq Khan and the powerful military. Her administration was accused of corruption and nepotism, and dismissed by Khan in 1990. Intelligence services rigged that year's election to ensure a victory for the conservative Islamic Democratic Alliance, after which Bhutto served as the leader of the opposition. After the IJ government of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was also dismissed on corruption charges, Bhutto led the PPP to victory in the 1993 elections. Her second term oversaw economic privatization and attempts to advance women's rights. Her government was damaged by several controversies, including the assassination of her brother Murtaza, a failed 1995 coup d'état, and a further bribery scandal involving her and her husband Asif Ali Zardari. In response to the latter, the president again dismissed her government. The PPP lost the 1997 election and in 1998 she went into self-exile in Dubai, leading her party mainly through proxies. A widening corruption inquiry culminated in a 2003 conviction in a Swiss court. Following United States-brokered negotiations with President Pervez Musharraf, she returned to Pakistan in 2007 to compete in the 2008 elections. Her platform emphasized civilian oversight of the military and opposition to growing Islamist violence. After a political rally in Rawalpindi, she was assassinated. The Salafi jihadi group Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility, although the involvement of the Pakistani Taliban and rogue elements of the intelligence services were widely suspected. She was buried at her family mausoleum. Bhutto was a controversial figure. She was often criticized as being politically inexperienced and corrupt, and faced much opposition from Pakistan's Islamist lobby for her secularist and modernizing agenda. In the early years of her career she was nevertheless domestically popular and also attracted support from Western nations, for whom she was a champion of democracy. Posthumously, she came to be regarded as an icon for women's rights due to her political success in a male-dominated society. Bhutto was born on June 21, 1953 in the Pakistani city of Karachi. Her father was the politician Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and her mother was Begum Nusrat Isfahani, of Iranian Kurdish parentage. Zulfikar was the son of Shahnawaz Bhutto, a prominent politician who had served as Prime Minister of the Junagadh state. The Bhuttos were aristocratic, wealthy landlords from Sindh. They were Sunni Muslims, although Nusrat had been born into a Shia Muslim family before converting to Sunnism on her marriage. The couple had married in September 1951, and Benazir was their first child. Their three younger children were, Murtaza, born 1954, Sanam, 1957, and Shahnawaz, 1958. When Shahnawaz died in 1957, Zulfikar inherited the family's land holdings, making him extremely wealthy. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, Benazir's father, was Prime Minister of Pakistan and founding chairman of the PPP. Benazir's first language was English. As a child she spoke Urdu less frequently, and barely spoke the local Sindhi language. Benazir initially attended the Lady Jennings Nursery School in Karachi. She was then sent to the Convent of Jesus and Mary in Karachi and from there to the Jesus and Mary Convent, a boarding school in Murree. Murree is near the border with India, and during the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965 Bhutto and the other pupils underwent air raid practices. Taking her exams in December 1968, Bhutto passed her O-levels with high grades. Throughout her youth, Bhutto idolized her father, and he in turn encouraged her educational development in contravention of traditional approaches to women then pervasive in Pakistan. Relations between her parents were however strained during her childhood. Zulfikar embarked on extramarital affairs with other women, and when Nusrat objected he had her thrown out of their house. She moved to Iran, but after Zulfikar prevented her children from joining her there, she returned to Pakistan 6 months later, settling in Karachi. Throughout her life, Bhutto never publicly acknowledged this internal family discord. When Bhutto was 5, her father became the cabinet minister for energy, and when she was 9 he became the country's foreign minister. From an early age, she was exposed to foreign diplomats and figures who were visiting her father, among them Zhou Enlai, Henry Kissinger, and Hubert Humphrey. When she was 13, he resigned from the government and a year later established his own political party, the Pakistan People's Party, PPP. The PPP used the motto "Islam is our faith, democracy is our policy, socialism is our economy. All power to the people." It employed a populist strategy to attract votes, promising roti, kapra or makan, bread, clothes, and housing, for every Pakistani and insisting that the disputed territory of Kashmir would be transferred from Indian to Pakistani control. Benazir immediately joined. Amid riots against the government of President Ayub Khan, in 1968 Zulfikar was arrested and imprisoned for 3 months, during which he wrote to Benazir to encourage her studies. According to Bhutto biographer Shyam Basha, Bhutto possessed a desire to be liked and to be popular, and for this reason was prepared to be all things to all people, having a chameleon-like quality to blend into her environment. While in Pakistan she presented herself as a conservative Muslim who always wore her head covered, he observed, but as a student in Oxford she had adopted a more liberal lifestyle, tending to wear a t-shirt and jeans and occasionally drinking wine. Munoz concurred, describing Bhutto as a woman of contradictions. As a politician, she was conscious of how her image was presented in Pakistan. She dressed modestly, was never photographed with a glass lest it be interpreted as containing alcohol, and would refuse to shake men's hands. In the country, she also wore a white dupatta on her head to placate Islamist opposition. Her mother and other female family members had not covered their hair in this manner. The journalist Christina Lamb believed that in being raised in a wealthy and aristocratic family, Bhutto was unable to appreciate the struggles of Pakistan's poorest. The Islamic studies scholar Akbar S. Ahmed, who went to school with Bhutto, wrote that she was a pampered and precocious child. Basha claimed that at Oxford, where he first met her, Bhutto was spoiled, self-obsessed, and prone to throwing temper tantrums, although at the same time was humorous and generous, willing to pay for her friends' meals whenever at a restaurant. 437, Allen suggested that Bhutto retained her characteristic dahat and baz arrogance, a relic of her feudal upbringing, arguing that her key character flaw had been a belief in the special, almost sacred destiny of herself and the Bhutto family, and that accordingly, while she spoke like a democrat, she thought and felt as a dynast. In later life, Bhutto was accused of being addicted to power, although Allen thought it more accurate to state that she was addicted to adulation, suggesting that this stemmed from a narcissistic element to Bhutto's personality. Bhutto was an accomplished orator, having honed her skill at public speaking while president of the Oxford Debating Society. Having encountered her later in life, Munoz regarded Bhutto as a charming and intelligent woman. Allen asserted that Bhutto was a woman of action rather than an intellectual. Her choice of reading material was usually either utilitarian or pleasurable rather than intellectual. She enjoyed reading Mills and Boon romance novels and the celebrity-focused Hello! Magazine. She read a number of self-help books, telling a friend that for all the lows in my life, those self-help books helped me survive, I can tell you. Commentators and biographers have said that Bhutto shared her father's charisma, but also his arrogance, and that like him she was impatient of criticism. The connection between Bhutto and her father was endorsed by Allen, who stated that they had much in common: strength, charisma, political instinct, and the courage, part and parcel of their arrogance, that was so characteristic of both. Allen also believed that Bhutto was so dedicated to her father that psychologically, she was unable to admit to any imperfection in him. Bhutto imitated many of her father's mannerisms and his style of speech. Close friends called her BB, or Pinky, the latter being the childhood nickname given her by her parents. Bhutto was devoted to her father and husband. In later life, she increasingly came to see success through the prism of her family. 449, she had a love of French and Italian cuisine. 433, and was a great fan of the music of American singer Neil Diamond. In the final years of Bhutto's life, she and her husband lived apart. According to Allen, she would have been aware that a divorce or a public separation would have resulted in the end of her political career in Pakistan due to social stigma around the subject. In a 2007 interview, she said that she and her husband were living apart because of his medical requirements, adding that she visited him every month in New York regarding the rumors of separation. In 2008, Bhutto's friend Victoria Schofield said that the marriage should not be judged by ordinary standards. According to Schofield, after Zardari's return from prison, the Bhutto's marriage was going through a process of readjustment. In 2018, Bhutto's friend Ron Susskind described the marriage as probably not all bad, although added that Bhutto did not consider her husband to be an equal partner in the marriage. The couple had 3 children. A son, Bilawal, was born in September 1988, while she was campaigning for that year's election. She also had 2 daughters, Bakhtawar and Asifa. When she gave birth to Bakhtawar in 1990, she became the first elected head of government to give birth while in office. Ahmed stated that Bhutto was one of very few political leaders who had been able to assume the iconic status of a political martyr in the West while simultaneously evoking strong sentiments in the Muslim world. He therefore contrasted her with contemporaries like Iraq's Saddam Hussein, who were popular domestically but hated in the West, and those like Egypt's Hosni Mubarak, who curried favor with Western governments while alienating their domestic audience. Bhutto gained popularity in Western nations in part because she could present herself as being part of their world, speaking a high standard of English and having been educated at Harvard and Oxford. While her Western supporters sometimes had doubts about her ability to govern, they generally viewed her as a progressive figure who could advance democracy and counter terrorism in Pakistan.